Welcome to A Healthy Curiosity, the podcast that explores what it takes to be well in a busy world with self-care strategies from Chinese medicine. I'm your host, Brodie Welch, here to support you on your journey of health, happiness, and personal evolution. Welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Brodie Welch, licensed acupuncturist, Chinese medicine expert, health coach, and human being. I really need to practice what I preach about just honoring my being as well as my doing. I got a really beautiful email from a podcast listener today, and she was talking about how she found my show through the intermittent fasting for women episode. And she was saying how she appreciates that I am talking about health mentally, physically, and spiritually from a female perspective and quoting studies that talk about women. And she was mentioning how a lot of the input in her ears have to do with being a high performer. And she writes, even topics like spirituality and meditation are framed as tools that can increase your productivity. I hope I'm not being too sexist in saying that I also see this as a male perspective. I really appreciate that the implicit ultimate goal in your interviews is health, wellness, happiness, and life satisfaction, which it is. And how she values getting the latest nootropics or red light therapy or a new breathing exercise or reason to eat a certain vegetable from Bulletproof Radio. But she's concerned that the message that you have to be a high performer and that being happy means making more money and the ultimate goal is to be an influencer is embedding into her subconscious. So one question would be, and I'm sure other people struggle with this, when is enough? When do you say, I'm thin enough, healthy enough, have enough friends, have enough success, etc.? And at that point, when you're on the other side, what to expect life to be like? Or should we all be striving towards high performer status? Wow. This email completely encapsulates what I see as our cultural addiction to yang. So yeah, what she's saying here is she's saying, I hope that I'm not being sexist and saying that this is a male perspective. Absolutely not. There's, from a Chinese medicine perspective, if we think about yin and yang, on the yin side of things, we have things like being versus doing. We have rest versus activity. We have how it feels versus how it looks. We have inside versus outside. And like all these things in that sort of second column is the yang. And our culture is addicted to yang. Our culture values yang above yin. So yeah, it's that whole, and I'm even guilty of this all the time because I'm a yang addict or a recovering yang addict, that I am looking for going into yin so that I can serve, so that I can be productive, so that I can be a high performer. Like there's a part of me that absolutely wants to rock my yang and yang itself, to the peak of yang. And at the same time, the biggest mistake I see people making in trying to be all they can be and be a high achiever, a high performer, that kind of thing, is to dishonor their yin, to cut short things like getting enough sleep at night, to cut short things like honoring your heart rather than your mind, or honoring your intuition or your body rather than doing something quote unquote productive. And that absolutely, for its own right, these things are something to be explored, that they don't have to be means to an end. They are worthy in and of themselves. So I really appreciate this email as an opportunity to really underscore the value of yin for yin's sake. There is, not everything has to be about the yang, productive, speedy, busy, external, in service of end of things. We are allowed to just experience life for its own sake, even if it means sitting and doing nothing, even if it means curling up with a book just for the sake of enjoying it, even if it means staring at a cloud or listening to the sound of a river flowing over rocks. These experiences that can be profoundly meaningful and where we can find peace and a sense of contentment are inherently yin. And those are exactly the kinds of things that if we're only valuing the yang, that we're going to miss. We're just going to go right by them. So yeah, there's a lot of noise out there about making an impact. And that is certainly in the circles that I run into, the entrepreneurial world, there is this idea of doing more and speeding up so that you can do more faster and being like on all the time and being in these peak states. And there's nothing wrong with that at all, except for if it's actually taking you away from the end result that you're hoping to have in the first place. So if you're thinking that like you're going to be a high performer because then you'll have more money so that you can take more vacations and have more time to do nothing or have more time to slow down and enjoy life, it sort of begs the question of why not just go directly to how you want to feel? Why not just go towards that doing less, claiming time, slowing down, making the space and time in your life for what matters most to you? So I, as you know, have struggled with being a young addict, being an overachiever. And I want to confess something to you, which is that I have been dispersing my energy in way too many directions for too long. And it's taken its toll on my happiness to the point where I think I would probably have a diagnosis of depression going right now. And I'm saying this because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's something that people need to know that they're not alone in. So I want to talk about it today on the show because depression is related to so many things. It is, first of all, not a Prozac deficiency, nor is it a deficiency of gratitude or perspective. There's a meme that my friend and former office manager, Emily Vaden, shared recently where like the two girls are talking and one girl says to the other, "Why are you depressed? You have so many good things going on in your life." And the girl that she's talking to is like, "Because depression." Yeah, it's not just about a loss of perspective, although certainly things like gratitude journals and like choosing, like amplifying what we focus on can be a way out of depression. But there are so many things that can be going on here. Some of you may remember I had Dr. Christina Bjorndal, a naturopath, on the show a while back, a long time ago. In her book, Beyond the Label, she writes, "You are anxious and depressed perhaps because your body is not supporting the pathway to make serotonin on its own because you do not have the essential nutrients to do so, or you are missing the nutritional cofactors along the pathway to serotonin, or you are deficient in vitamin B3, or you are stressed out and forming quinolytic acid instead." There are also a number of factors that decrease the amount of serotonin in your body, which include an excess of estrogen, seasonal affective disorder, a low protein or low carb diet, chronic stress, excess caffeine or alcohol consumption, thyroid disease, habitual use of tranquilizers, benzodiazepines, or sleeping pills, menopause, a deficiency of beneficial gut flora, which impacts the gut-brain axis, or perhaps you don't have a serotonin manufacturing problem at all, but due to heavy metals and endocrine disruptors in the environment, there are molecules blocking receptors so that serotonin can't get inside the cell and do its job. So there is so much there that could be going on that could be preventing any of us from being able to manufacture the feel-good, happy hormone neurotransmitter that we know as serotonin. If you've got a healthy curiosity, you want to know how you can be doing right by your body and how to live a more mindful, streamlined life in accordance with your values. While I love that you tune into the show every week, are you taking action? If not, why not? Here are the top 3 roadblocks that could be holding you back. 1, thinking that knowing is doing. They're different things. Knowing the properties of herbs is different than actually taking them. Knowing how to change a habit is different than actually changing up your routine. Knowing is the first step, but the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 100th steps involve action. Number 2, thinking that because you're smart and used to being successful, that you need to do it all yourself. This one dogged me for years as an independent-minded overachiever. That is, until I realized that 1, I can't see my own blind spots, and 2, I don't know what I don't know. Now, I'd much rather work with a guide who can point out the shortcut for the path I want to travel rather than get lost in the woods alone. Not only is it way easier, but I'm more likely to show up for myself if I've told my coach or my mastermind partners what I'm trying to do. Reason number 3, thinking that you don't have the money. What we spend money on is a reflection of what we're prioritizing. Maybe it's time to prioritize you. I'm opening up my calendar for a handful of one-on-one coaching clients. I've helped thousands of women break up with stress, optimize their habits, mood, hormones, weight, and vitality with integrative body-mind tools from Chinese medicine, yoga, neuroscience, coaching, and ancient wisdom. Just as importantly, I pour my heart into each of my clients, and you will feel that love in every single interaction. If you're ready to feel more calm and confident in your own skin, start feeling younger every year, feeling like you're at the center of your own life rather than just getting through it, and feel loved and supported in the process, head over to the Work With Me page at brodiewelch.com and apply to work with me one-on-one. That's Brodie with an IE and Welch with a CH. Now back to the show. So if I look on that list, like what might apply to me? Well, it's like, there could well be some hormone things going on. Certainly stress is something in my world. Digestion, gut flora, menopause, thyroid, all these things could potentially be a factor. And all of those things, there are levers that we can pull on, right? We can change our diet. We can change our lifestyle to slow it down. We can do more things like meditation and mindfulness and qigong and yoga and more time in nature. We can be eating cleanly. Like all these things that I coach in my Level Up course where we focus on the body habits are basically like, all right, are we getting these baselines? Like if we can automate the mundane body habits, we're more likely to be healthy and happy and have energy and all that. But at the same time, if we're still doing too much, if we're still overextended and dealing with chronic stress, that still can be enough to prevent the hormone balance or prevent neurotransmitters from giving us what we need in order to feel happy. So yeah, even though like I took this test and I'm scoring as like mildly clinically depressed, which by the way is worse with my invisible hormonal cycles that I can no longer see because I'm postmenopausal at the age of 42, I am addressing these things by like taking an honest and hard look at where do I want my energy to go? Like, what am I really passionate about? I love helping people. Is it enough to just be treating people in clinic? Is it enough to just be coaching people in Level Up? Is it enough to be doing this podcast as a service dimension of my business? Is it enough to just show up for my kid and my other kid and my husband and my friends the way that I want to show up for them? It's like, at what point is enough enough? And that's a question that really challenges me to look at what I want to be creating in life and where do I want to be putting my energy, and recognizing that there are limits, and that limits aren't necessarily a bad thing. That actually, if I embrace the idea that energy is not infinite, it's like that's where meaning in life comes from. The fact that it is finite means that what we do with our time matters. And I would much rather have my presence be potent and available and so full of love and so full of as much consciousness as I can have access to, because I want to be known for and remembered for helping other people feel good, helping other people to feel okay about who they are and to realize their own worth and to be able to feel more comfortable and happy and healthy in their bodies. So in terms of what I am doing differently, so for example, like I've got a super clean diet, but I also wolf down my food, lifelong habit, but it also goes to that notion of got to be in constant motion, got to be in producing more. And so the idea of actually chewing and putting my fork down, it's like those things are, they've kind of gone out the window. And even though I can kind of do my little gratitude before I start eating, it really is, I could be taking life in a slower gear. I realized when I came back from leading a retreat in Mexico in February, it was such an amazing experience and I loved it. And I came back and my soul was like, when do I get to be led through an experience like this? And I still haven't paid any attention to that. It's like I have, but I keep being like, yeah, later. And I'm giving myself credit for not overloading my plate ultra full, but I still haven't necessarily taken action on enrolling in something that's going to be like deeply soul nourishing. So that is on my agenda, on my to-do list. I'm talking about this because I have a feeling I'm not alone. And I want to bring depression out of the closet as something that we need to be ashamed of, and instead as something that is like, hey, the struggles are real, because our society does not make it easy to avoid stress, eat the things that are going to be beneficial to our gut flora, and keep our hormones in balance. Partly because of our cultural yang addiction, where it's really, really hard to do nothing, to do less than we're capable of, and to claim the space and time for things that don't necessarily do anything beyond give us pleasure, joy, contentment, or a sense of peace. So I'm here to tell you, let's start honoring our yin as much as our yang, our being as much as our doing, by choosing to take our yang energy, our capable, doing, active energy, and deliberately channeling it towards something yin that feels good. So that is part of my do less challenge for you today. Maybe it's time to do a slow restorative yoga class or a qigong meditation, as opposed to going to some give it all you've got intense workout where you just feel exhausted afterwards. Maybe it's about busting out your watercolors or your colored pencils and listening to music and just letting your mind have some non-directed spaciousness, just for the sake of the process, not even to produce something, an outcome of any kind. Maybe it is just staring off into space and petting a cat and appreciating what it's like to be in the moment. Getting comfortable with just being can be so hard, especially if we are naturally more yang than yin in our constitution, and especially because we live in a yang addicted culture. Have I made my point about yang addiction? I think I have. I'll stop harping on it. But at the same time, I want to just acknowledge that if this was easy, I wouldn't have to be talking about it. So I would encourage you to get an accountability partner for doing less and just see how hard it is to just claim back some time for what really matters to you, something that has to do with being rather than doing. So I'm not saying that your work in the world isn't important. I'm not saying don't do yang ever, but just simply just taking some time this week to really go yin and really appreciate the just being aspect of life, because it's just as valid as the yang aspect of life. So we don't expect life to go like day, 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 night, day, day. It's like we need a balance of day and night. We need a balance of activity and rest. And this is the lesson of the yin yang symbol of Chinese medicine, which is a symbol of the universe itself. So getting back to what this has to do with stress and depression and burnout is that in my life, this is at least what I'm suspecting, is that yanging myself out is ultimately depleting my yin, makes it hard to go to sleep at night. It makes it so that I'm in that kind of wired, tired state. Racing through my meals makes it really challenging for my gut to absorb the beautiful food that I'm putting into it and to make the requisite neurotransmitters like serotonin that I need in order to feel calm and stable. Plus whatever this hormonal thing is going on, stress hormones and sex hormones come out of the same bucket. So if I am addressing doing less, it may be perhaps decreasing the amount of cortisol that is getting into my system, that what progesterone and estrogen I do have will be able to come back into balance. So what I'm doing is struggling to do less and to not just like whoosh into action mode, because there's a lot I want to do. And at the same time, I need to clarify what's really most important before I move into action. So as much as I would dearly love to fall back on my good old wood element, that upward, outward, moving towards action all the time dimension of who I am, I'm really in a water phase where I need to fall back and wait until the water is clear, as it says in the Tao Te Ching, to wait for right action to arise by itself in order to make sure that where I am putting my life force is in alignment with my true purpose here on the planet. So I'm in the water phase, everyone, and it's very uncomfortable because I really would like to be able to do it all. And I don't know that I can in a way that doesn't whack out my health and happiness. Because I still love treating people in clinic and watching needle magic do its work. It's remarkable. And I deeply love getting groups of women together to embody self-respect by automating the core habits that we all need to thrive through my Level Up program. I love working with people one-on-one and watching the light bulbs go on as to what is really going to move the needle in someone's lifestyle. I love hosting workshops and retreats and events, and all of those things and I love teaching Chinese medicine to people through my Basics of Chinese Medicine course, which I used to do live every once in a while. If there's interest in that, I'd be happy to run it again. But that is the thing, is that I can't continue to do all the things. I need to streamline and simplify, because I really have to walk my talk around self-care and around embodying self-respect, which means doubling down on meditation and honoring my yin and doing things that aren't actually of service to anyone, but they just make me happy. And honestly, those things need my attention. So for me, this is about looking through the lens of Chinese medicine, identifying that I have not enough yin, too much yang, too much wood element, and that's what, coincidentally, our society also has. And really consciously leaving room for spontaneity and fun, which is the fire element, also socializing. Leaving room to be nourished by my life experience, which is the earth element, right? Being able to take in, like, what is actually going to be nourishing? Is it more important for me to have a broad impact with a lot of people, or to go really deep with a very few? These are earth element questions. Metal element is going to be about letting go of what no longer serves and making sure that I'm operating from a place of energy integrity and being in integrity with my values that honor both the yin and the yang. So thanks for listening, everyone. I hope this has been helpful for you if you are similarly yang addicted and struggling to honor your yin, or like the writer of this beautiful email that I got, someone who really wants to detoxify out of her life this notion that we always need to be pushing or on some personal growth path, that maybe we are enough. So just deciding, like, yeah, let me just clear that right up. You are enough. You're doing enough. If your expectations are higher for yourself than they are for any other human on the planet, and you're meeting them, you're doing enough. So let's all do less than we're capable of, so that we can just see what it's like to feel and operate from the inside out in our own rhythms, from our own internal values and not what society values, and really feel into the present moment. Thanks for your time and attention. It is the greatest gift we can ever give each other, is our presence. Be well.
Thanks for listening today. For more episodes of A Healthy Curiosity, you can visit the iTunes store. If you appreciated today's show, please leave us a review. This helps other people to find the podcast. You could also head to brodiewelch.com, where you can find free self-care resources, learn more about Chinese medicine, and let me know what you'd like to hear about on future episodes. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, be good to yourself.